sun has gone down again, and I haven't been told any different. I believe Longmire Jr. being reunited with his family. And I also saw and shared a post from Pamela Mitchell of where someone gave false representation of the family, or representation, unauthorized representation of the family to Channel 13. And I went looking for that, and I found it and I saw it. And I understand why Pamela's upset. If you watch the interview that she gave PA on his radio station, you would put the two and two together and understand why she's upset. Lord have mercy. You know, if we're going to be, well, not we, because I ain't, as a whole, as a community, if we're going to respect the Mitchell and the Longmire family, don't speak on anything you don't know. That's for them. You know, the rest of us are just here for supporting the family, lifting them up, building them up, helping them out with resources or any other way that we can. Because, you know, everybody can't do everything, so just do what you can. Don't, you know, try to come over in a lane where you can't help them and you're not consistent with the help. Be respectful and mindful of the family. And, you know, if we're going to be doing any interviews in regards to, let me correct myself. If any interviews are going to be done in regards to Longmire Jr., it should be the family or authorized through the family. And according to Pamela's post here, I'm reading it, and it's very heartfelt. That wasn't authorized. And you take a risk, you know, going with a major media outlet, giving them an interview, because they're going to chop that up and edit it up as they want it to be seen. Now, you going on there thinking you're doing something as a help, thinking that they're going to release that entire interview that you give. No, they're going to chop that up and edit it up just the way they want to do it. You know, they need views, they need ratings. So for me, you know, any interviews done regarding something like this, or even in a representation of our community, it should go to who's representing our community. And we have some people around here who are building their space up in regards to media outlet, you know, making a name for themselves and creating a presence. And I know one for certain is the Block Paper Weekly. You'll see him pop up in the reels, you know, all the time with something. You know, a lot of people have, you know, I've seen some complaints of people, you know, where he is, you know, try to speak of his candor and how he approaches in his conduct with people. But I mean, would you rather it be him or somebody from outside who's going to, you know, chop the film up and, you know, give the wrong perception of what's happening or what's being said? So, well, most definitely, no one should be out doing interviews representing the Longmire and the Mitchell family, and it hasn't been approved by the family. You know, it's the family themselves, unless they've chosen a spokesperson, it just shouldn't be done. So, and that person who did that interview, boy, I'm just hopeful that that's not the person I've been talking to on these lives as far as having information for Pamela Mitchell. Because I have been speaking of how you're ignoring God's voice, and that takes you from disobedience to arrogance. I've also spoken of how, grace works. I've also given the analogy of how grace works as in comparison to the evolution of the moon. So I sure hope that's not the person I've been talking to. Because the family, they haven't, from the interview that I saw from Pamela Mitchell, her daughter and her niece, when they were on 103.7 The Beat, they didn't accuse her of anything. They just spoke of her behaviors. It was out of place. It was odd for a person of her relationship with Longmire Jr. So be mindful of that too. And I encourage, all supporters outside of the family, don't try to get into the mechanics of the family and the relationship of what's going on. Yeah, some information will be put out there, some will be leaked, but that's not our place. Our place is just to, lift up and support the family. Let them deal with, whatever that is, regardless of what information leaks out. Because, we don't know if it's true, if it's false, or whatever. We just have to, we shouldn't get ourselves that involved anyway, but there are times where things are explained. In, that interview that Pamela gave to PA, that was so heartfelt. How her and her niece, she was very calm in her candor, the way she spoke in regards to her cousin. Even as well as his sister. They were calm and peaceful in their conversation. And, they told us what we need to know. And that's it, Outside folks, we don't need to be trying to go be doing no digging and doing more than what we supposed to be doing. And that's all we doing is just supporting them. That's it. That's it. Don't get off in the mechanics of the family and the relationship and all that other stuff. Our folks try to be detective and go, putting in their little 2 cents or whatever that is, continue to build the family up. So, again, to the person who's supposed to give Pamela Mitchell that information, need to move expeditiously. Expeditiously, right away. Today is the 28th. We have 3 more days until the 4th. Until the 1st. The 4th day will be the 1st of April. And as I stated before, I will remind you, this is just an example. Don't know how grace is working for you. You don't know the window that you have in between grace and mercy. So the moon is almost at full illumination. It is in waxing gibbous, and I believe it is at like 85% now. So that means 15% of the moon has a shadow, and that's where you are, in that shadow. Now, each and every day, more of the moon is exposed, and the exposure is the grace coming off of you. That little shadow is where you are, where you're trying to inch back in there and stay covered. That'll be up on the 1st. Just an example. That's just using that hypothetically. Once the moon is fully exposed, it is fully illuminated. Fully illuminated. It's a full moon. It's fully illuminated, and it casts brightness wherever it hits. Even when it's cloudy, you can still see a glimpse of the moon, unless it's 100% cloud cover. I believe like 60, somewhere between 60 and 70% cloud cover. That's when you can't see the moon. But for 7 days, it'll be full. So you'll have full illumination at night and full sunshine from the sun during the day. Even if it's cloudy, it's still bright outside. And with that, there's exposure. That's what that is. That's how grace works. And it's just an example. Now, I don't know if you have until the 1st to get to speak to Pamela Mitchell like you need to, but that's just an example. That's how grace works. And you don't know the time limit of grace, between the grace and the mercy covering you. So in between that window of the grace coming off and the mercy being applied, there's a window in there where you're in trouble. You're in trouble. So that's why I keep speaking on that analogy of the moon, the phases of it. That's how grace works. There's a covering, and then the covering comes off. There's full exposure. Because God gives us time in that grace to correct ourselves. And you, that person who has that information for Pamela Mitchell, you have not spoken to her. You have not. And again, I sure hope. Yeah. Contact Lee Longmire Jr.'s mother. Speak to her. Give her the information as the Lord has led you to do. Whatever method he's told you to do that before grace runs out on you.